We're going to pick up today where we left off with these fractions before we took the assessment. This time, though, your job, you actually have to find what the x is equal to. Okay, you're solving an equation. If you remember last week, we solved equations like these. Don't write it, just watch. Where you had just one ratio on each side, so you know that you can use cross products. Okay. And I know that I can just multiply the diagonals and set them equal to each other. So A is 3, B is x plus 2, C is 4, and D is x plus 2. Then you can just distribute and then collect like terms. Okay, it's not as easy when there's three different, because there are actually three fractions, because that 3 is technically a fraction over 1, but don't put the 1 there. So you can't do that little trick when you have 3 of them. You are going to need to get an LCD. Not as hard as it's going to seem. And then I extend the ratio lines. And there's nothing I would parenthesize, and there's really nothing on this assignment to parenthesize and have to factor right away. So 7 over 2, 3 over x, and then 3. Okay, when you're looking for an LCD, you're just looking in the denominator. So what do you have on the bottoms? You don't have any parentheses, but you have an outer x. Call it outer x because it's not in parentheses. You also have an outer 2. Okay, so outer x's, I don't have any right here. So 0. I have 1 right there. Notice how I'm manipulating the camera, so I'm not even looking at the tops. I don't have any right there, so that's 0. So everything needs an equal amount of x's in the denominator. So let's get them all so they have 1. So I'm going to times the 2 by x, and then I would times the 7 by x. I would put an x here and then times the 3 by x. Okay, now outer 2's, I have 1 on the first fraction, 0 on the second, and 0 on the third, so they all need 1. Okay, so I just put a 2 there, or you can times 2, it doesn't matter. Bring in a 2 here, and then times 2. Now, the nice thing about having to solve, the only good thing about it is, once the bottoms are all the same with this equals, you can cancel the bottoms and just forget them. Okay? Once they're the same, they have to be the same. So I drop my equals down and I say, okay, you don't need Math Papa calculator to do this. 7 times x is 7x. Then 3 times 2 is 6. And 3 times x times 2, well, 3, 2, 6 with an x connected. Okay? So there's still only one answer, and the x's are like terms, so we just get them on the same side. So I have 6, and then negative 1x. So I divide by negative 1, and 6 divided by negative 1 is negative 6. Okay, my next problem. This time again, you actually do have 3 ratios. You need to come up with the lowest common denominator for all 3. Okay, but today's pretty easy. So you just drop everything down. There's nothing that's going to be factorable. Leave that empty because of the bottoms. Okay, you could put a 1 under it, but you're really putting an unnecessary thing that doesn't really be needed in the process. So I've got outer x on one of the 3. Got outer 3. And then I don't have anything there. So outer x, I got 1, 0, and 0. So those 2 that don't have 1 need to have 1. So x times x, x times x. Okay, outer 3. Well, I don't have an outer 3 there, but I know one of them has it. That one has 1, and that one has 0. So we need to get them all so they have 1. Okay, so I drop my equals, and I take 2 times 3. That's 6. plus 4x. And then over on the other side, that's going to be 6x again. So again, only one answer. The equation can only be equal to the variable can equal only one value. Get the x's together. Okay, and then 6 equals 2x. You just divide by 2. And that's 3. So x is 3. Okay, next one, I've got 10 over x plus x, and then 7x. So technically that's 3 ratios. You'll have a 1, but it's really senseless to do that. Okay, so lowest common denominator. So I've got x, outer x, call it outer x if it ain't in a parentheses. That's going to help you later on. And I drop them all. Okay, and that bottom's empty, that's bottom's empty, so it's really just outer x, but you only look at the bottom. You got 1 on the bottom there, you have 0 x's on bottom there, and you have 0 x's on bottom here. So, they all need to have 1. Got that. That one's good. Okay, now everything has an x, and that's pretty much good. Now I can forget the bottoms, okay, when I solve an equation. Again, you don't have to worry about the bottoms, and you just look at your top. So I've got 10, x times x is x to the second power, not 2x, okay. You might want to put a 1 in front of it, though. 7x to the second. Okay, now there would be 2 solutions here. But the x's that you have, they're both to the second power, so they are like terms, so get them on the same side. Okay, so I've got 10 and then 6x squared. And then we divide by 6. Now 10 divided by 6 is a decimal, 1.6 repeating. I'm going to round it to 1.67. Square root both sides. Now a square root's an even root, so the plus negative's needed. Then I need to find the square root of 1.67. Okay, 1.29 will work. Okay, so positive 1.29, negative 1.29. Okay, and then our last one. Okay, again, that's note the subtraction, not the addition. I guess you could put plus negatives. Nah, just leave it minus, okay? That's a minus sign. Okay, so all this stuff can just drop down. There's no point in parenthesizing it, no point in trying to factor it. They're all monomials, meaning single term. Okay, so my lowest common denominator, well, that denominator is empty. That denominator has an outer x. And that denominator is empty too, so it's just outer x again. So, I don't have how many x's you got on the bottom there? You have 0. How many x's on the bottom there? 1. How many x's on the bottom here? 0. So they all need 1, okay? They all need, so x, and then I times x. Good there. That already has its 1. And x times x. Now that your bottoms have exactly the same thing, you may cross them out. Okay. Okay, x times x is x to the second power minus, and then 60, and then 11x. Now there would be 2 solutions to the problem because of the second powered x. And this time my x's are not like terms, so I need to get everything to one side so I can factor it. So I'd subtract 11x, and that doesn't go with anything, so I just put it behind. Now, you need to write this in the proper order. The 1x squared is first, the minus 11x is second, the minus 60 is third, okay? And now you have a trinomial that you can factor, okay? GCF and the t-chart. Okay, GCF, no negative, you don't have x on everything, and 1, 4, and 60, no. So now A, B, C that. 1 times negative 60, take the A, times the c is negative 60. So if it's negative, we're looking for two factors that give me a difference of 11. And that is 4 and 15. Okay. Now a is a nice solid 1x squared, so I just need two parentheses because it's no trick to breaking down 1x squared. It's x and x. And then I've broken down the rest into the 4 and the 15. Okay. So I've got minus 4x, so you got minus 15, and on a difference, it'd be the opposite. Okay, so x plus 4 can equal 0. X minus 15 equals 0. So I get negative 4 for my first solution, and I get positive 15 for the second. Okay, this problem here is going to require you to use factoring. This problem here will not if you do it correctly.